This is a quick video on 5 very simple things you can do to make your online classes feel more natural. I've decided to make this video because lots of teachers have told me about how they feel online classes are not so comfortable, how they feel that they can't deliver the same level of quality when they're teaching online. So hopefully with these 5 very simple tips, you will be able to offer your students better online classes, hopefully just as good as the ones you've taught face-to-face before. So let's take a look at 5 quick tips on how to make your online classes feel more natural and more comfortable for yourself and for your students. So number 1 thing to do, look at your webcam. This might seem like a really simple thing to do, right? I mean, looking at the camera, who wouldn't do that? Well, it turns out a lot of the time when we're on a conference call, we have the video of the person or the people we're teaching, and then we have the video of ourselves. What happens to many people, myself included, is if you're the one speaking, you're gonna have a tendency to look at yourself, and if you're student speaking, you will have a tendency to look at the student's video. What happens is this makes the whole experience feel really weird. I always keep the video part of the call near the webcam. By doing so, even if I look at my student speaking or at myself, I will still be looking towards their direction. So it's just gonna feel much more comfortable for them. It's just gonna feel like I'm actually looking at them. And this makes the whole experience much more comfortable and natural. So remember that. Keep the video participants near the webcam, and even if it does feel a little weird, make an effort to look at the webcam instead of looking at the person's face in the video. Tip number 2 is about pronunciation. One of the main things to consider if you're teaching pronunciation online is that obviously you're going to look much smaller on a computer screen than in real life, and sometimes your students will be using their cell phone, which means you're going to look even smaller. When I teach pronunciation, what I tend to do is I tend to get really close to the webcam just so that my students not only hear what I'm saying, but also get to see what I'm doing with my lips. Another thing I do is just point to my mouth, and this can be really helpful. So you can get really close to the webcam like this, and then just point to your face and show them what you're doing. So it's a bit like this. Sing. 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 One syllable, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Now look at this one. Sien. Sien. Yeah.
Sien.
Sien. Sien.
Sien. Sien.
It's similar but different, right?
Sien.
How do we pronounce this?
Bin.
And this?
Bien.
Huh?
Bien.
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 Yes.
Just N. Bien. Like
so
N.
you have two different syllables. Okay. Tip number 3, adapt your course material. Once you teach online, certain resources that you have from face-to-face classes simply won't work anymore. My favorite example is the worksheets that we all love printing for our face-to-face classes. They won't work in the same way if you're teaching online. The biggest problem, I think, is if you're used to using hard copies of books and then all of a sudden you find yourself teaching online. The solution I found for that when I first started teaching is I didn't want to get too adventurous because I wanted to familiarize myself with the tools per se. So I decided to continue using the same paper books, and I scanned the pages that I was going to use every class. So every class I scanned the pages and I shared these pages with my students. This was really nice because it allowed them to see what I was talking about. Which takes me to the next very important thing. So the fourth most important thing is sort of combined with the third. So maybe we could talk about the two of them together, which is screen sharing. I've heard of teachers using WhatsApp, Telegram, even Facebook to teach, but I do not recommend you use a platform that doesn't allow you to share your screen. It's not going to work very well. You won't be able to show your students what you're doing in your computer, and it's just not going to feel as interactive as what you would have in a face-to-face class. Here in the link that I am adding to this video, I am sharing a couple of web links that you can use if you want to share your screen on Zoom meetings, on Skype, and Google Hangouts. These, in my opinion, are the three best tools, with Zoom being by far the best of all. Whatever you choose, I recommend you choose something that allows you to share your screen. If you have a PDF of the book your student have, for example, you can share the PDF with them, and you can even show the correct answers. On Zoom meetings, you have a tool that allows you to annotate on the computer screen, which means you can take notes on whatever worksheet or pages of the book that you're working on, and your student can see what you're actually doing in your computer. So your class isn't just a conversation. Last but not least, get a board for your classes. I once had class with this Italian teacher who would simply talk to me on Skype and take notes on whatever she thought needed to be corrected. That was really disorganized. I had a bunch of notes from her, but no sequence of anything. I didn't feel like there was much preparation involved, and I definitely didn't feel like it was as interactive as face-to-face. If you want to have a real life board, by all means, I'm actually sharing a few links that you can use to see what a real board would look like in class, but you have a few things you really need to consider. The first one of them is, if you're adding a real board to your class, be careful, because you will be alone in a room talking to your computer. Just be careful so that you won't go around talking a lot and taking notes, and your student won't actually be able to see what you're saying. Always make sure you go back to the computer and communicate with your student. That's very important. I personally think that having a real board is a bit strange since the class is online. So what I recommend is that you download an Eboard app. We have a series of really good ones. You can use Active Inspire, you can use eBeam, and if you have an iPad like I do, you can also use an app called the Seri. I promise to make a video about how these apps work in more detail later, but they're really nice, and if you can, as I said, use an app that allows you to share your screen, you can share your eBoard online. So it makes it much more interactive for your students and much more high-tech. Personally, I think having a board is 90% of your class. It's what's going to give it a classroom feel. It's what's going to make your student feel like they're really in a class. On Zoom meetings, you get a free board. I don't like it very much. I think it's not very good if you're writing with the stylus, and it doesn't work really well when it comes to the size of the fonts and everything. But if you have no other option, it works really well and it's free. Another thing you can do is use PowerPoint. You can add a text box to PowerPoint and take notes, and it will look very, very well as well. So I guess that's it, guys. Remember that. Look at the webcam. In pronunciation slots, make sure you get close to the camera. Adapt your material, so turn stuff into PDF if you're a beginner. Get an app that allows you to share your screen, because it's very important. And don't forget to add a board to your classes. I hope you're doing very well, and that you teach very successful online classes. I'll see you soon. Bye.